Let's go. Morning, Charlie. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Grant, yeah, it's good to see you, brother. It's been a while. I'm always excited to jump on this chats with you.
Cool, man. Thanks for joining again. I know you're a busy man. I saw your schedule. You were out this weekend spreading the word. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Grant. So I've got a brand called the Conscious Wi-Fi, which is basically a mindful movement and flow hacking brand where I educate and empower individuals to just unlock their true potential.
Okay, so sort of you're looking at your power states, all that sort of work.
Yeah, so what we do is I teach people how to control and to master their mental and emotional state. And there's different ways we do it. I actually host these group events where I get people together and I take them on a journey. I take them on a journey with headphones on. There's a playlist going. We have some binaural beats to get the brain in a certain brainwave frequency, alpha or delta, depending on what the purpose of the exercise is. And then I take them through some neuro coaching exercises, where we activate all three parts of the brain, we get the body involved, and we actually go through a transformation process.
So this is actually one of the areas that I like. For me, when we were doing the course and we were going through, I was always a little bit, I'm not so keen, I'm not so sure. But take us through the three parts of the brain and why it's so important we get them active.
Yeah, Grant. Okay, thank you for that. Great question. So we have three general parts of the brain, right? The one is the neocortex, right? So the neocortex, the word actually means the new skin. So it's the newest part of our brain in the human evolution, right? Which is responsible for imagination. It allows us to see pictures in our own mind. That part of the brain understands the spoken word and analytical stuff like numbers, right? So then we have the limbic system, right? That is the part of the brain that is responsible for our emotions and sensations in the body, right? And then we've got the paleocortex, right? Some people call it the reptilian brain, but paleocortex actually means the ancient brain, right? So it's the oldest part of our brains as humans. So each of these brains speak a different language, right? And when we can activate all three parts of the brain, and then the brain kind of lights up like a Christmas tree, and then we can give clear instructions, right, to the operating system about what it is we want to change or install as a mental program. Because 95% of our thought patterns and our behaviors are actually unconscious. 95%. It's all based on a program that keeps running.
And that's what we look at it. And I'm going straight through to stuff that I worked with you on. And one thing I loved was that, it's quite simple when you Google it, but that unconscious, take me through it again. It's unconscious incompetence.
Yes. So you're speaking about the 4 stages of actually learning something, of creating an unconscious program in your operating system, right? So the 4 stages are, the first stage is unconscious incompetence. That's basically a stage where I don't know that I don't know, right? So let's do a very simple example. Driving a car when you're 15, 16 or whatever years old. Now you learn to drive a car. You don't realize that you don't know how to drive a car until you get in there and you have to put the clutch and you have to change the gears and you have to have the timing right. So it's unconscious incompetence. Now you realize, okay, I can't do this, right? I can't do this. So you realize that. So it's conscious incompetence, right? So that's the second stage when you realize, okay, there's a new task that I want to learn and I can't do it. It's unconscious incompetence. Now you start to practice.
Would you relate that back to what everyone's talking about, awakening So actually being aware now of what is going around. I mean, is that the state you would say the world really is in at the moment? A lot of the world?
Yeah. So I'm gonna finish the 4 steps, and then I'm gonna get back to that. So then, now you start to learn this to drive the car, just to give people an idea so that we can reference it to what you're asking. Right now, you start to learn, you start to become sort of proficient, but now you are consciously competent. So you have to still consciously effort, okay, cool. Clutch, first gear, let go of the clutch, put the accelerator, put the clutch in. So you're consciously competent. You can do it, but you have to think about it. You're applying mental effort. And then when you practice it for long enough, couple of times, long enough, then you become unconsciously competent. But then you can do it without trying. So that's how you install a program. It's through those 4 stages. So Grant, when you speak about this awakening, right, that the world is going through, I think with COVID, a lot of people started asking questions, right? They started asking questions. A friend of mine, he's actually told me a couple of weeks ago that he's lost 10 people in the last 2 years through suicide. Right? People who just couldn't cope. They didn't have the mental resilience. They didn't realize that they were actually the masters of their own state of being. And I think this is what many people are starting to wake up to. Not everyone, there's still a lot of unconscious incompetence, people who are just victims of circumstance, right? Victims of, what's going on in the world, and they can't process it and they can't handle it. So that's the unconscious incompetence. But now what I do, and a lot of other people are doing is teaching people that you are responsible and you are in control of your state of being, right? And then there are certain tools, right, to teach people how to actually control and master their mental and emotional state, right? And it's much simpler than a lot of people think. People think it's this complicated thing because they battle to get out of anxiety. People battle to get out of depression using medications in psychiatry, when in fact, if you're familiar with Albert Einstein, a lot of people are. He said you cannot solve a problem on the same level or from the same consciousness at which it was created, right? So trying to think your way out of a mental issue is defeating the purpose. Right? So you have to use a different angle. So what we do is we've discovered, through mentors that I've worked with in California and Australia, is that your physiology actually overrides your psychology, right? So if you find yourself in a mental funk, so to speak, all you need to do is stop trying to think your way out of it and change your body. Right? You change your body posture. There's 3 things, 3 key criteria for you to change your mental state. And it's your posture, your breathing pattern, and your facial expression. Right? And I've proven this to you. If you get into a certain body posture and you actually smile and you breathe deeply, you can't have that contracted or anxious feeling. Right? So it's as simple as changing your body posture. Now, people ask me, right, if it's that simple, why doesn't it last? I say you have to practice it. Once again, it's those 4 stages, you have to practice it until you become unconsciously competent, until it's just a natural way of being. Does that answer the question?
It does answer. I mean, but it brings up so many more because, again, like, it is really that simple. And it does. And we did do the exercise, and you're 100% correct. You did prove it. Now, practicing it, do you think people sort of, I mean, I go through state changes and I practice on state changes, and I've actually tried it on someone recently now, where we managed to get it right. And I use music a lot of the time as well, because music for me, you put on ABBA and you can't help yourself bloody dancing around the office. So my whole thing is like, because it actually sounds so simple, and really it is actually very simple when you do the exercise. Do you think people just go, yeah, but it won't work forever? And they have this, they have that negative sort of attachment with this.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. For like some people, most people, just actually all people have been conditioned. Right? We've all been conditioned with certain belief systems since the moment we were born, like, and I speak about this in identity design, we've all been kind of receptive to our parents' beliefs, teachers, school, television. During the first 7 years of childhood, we basically walk around in a theta brainwave state where we are just hypnotized by everything. It's how we come into this world. We take on information so that we can function. So these beliefs that we adopt from our parents, from TV, from teachers, from society, they serve a purpose, but eventually they become outdated. These beliefs that things are difficult and I'm not good enough and I'm not capable and I'm not worthy. So these core beliefs kind of then forms an identity. But a lot of people are so strongly identified with these things that they think it's who they are. But it's actually just belief systems and programs, and they can be changed.
Yeah. And I think, if we take it back to the workplace and we look at those words that have just come out of your mouth that you're talking about, I'm not worthy, not only in the workplace, I suppose, just in general life, but you do see that a lot of these days. And that brings you back to that sort of self-sabotage state where the next step is, I don't deserve this. And that's when it sort of goes back to that circle. What I find interesting, Charlie, is that when we go through the practice and when we actually work on this, you give a clear instruction, as you always do, to say that your those programs or those programs, that what's been programmed there served the purpose. It was there to protect you at some stage.
Yeah. Your unconscious mind, right? It takes on these belief systems and programs, and it perpetuates them because the brain is such an intelligent thing. It's probably the most energy efficient technology, right? Or device, so it always follows the path of least resistance, right? So it wants to keep you where you are. It wants to keep you comfortable and it keeps you safe. Right. But now when these beliefs become outdated, we become adults and we have goals and there's certain things we want to achieve, then those old patterns that want to keep us safe actually keep us stuck. Right. So moving through those old patterns into a new way of being, right, it is uncomfortable. Right. It is uncomfortable. That's why, I teach people, these principles of power that actually get you to be okay with getting uncomfortable so that you can create a new way of being instead of just playing that old record over and over again, because that's what keeps you stuck and what we call like self-sabotage. It's just the brain and the subconscious mind doing its job in keeping us safe. But that is the thing that keeps us stuck and from actually just living this extraordinary life.
So if we're getting stuck, let's say we're getting stuck, do we go back into that sort of unconscious, incompetent state where we just, would you relate it to be present in your life and where you just actually living where you are, your body's keeping you or your mind's keeping you safe, it's not allowing you to see what's going on around, things like that? Is that the same sort of state you go and you really have to start all over again?
Yeah, so here's the thing, Grant, and I want to touch on are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry, it just gave me another screen here. So this is where I want to touch on these principles of power, which help that initial stage of discomfort, of change, right? But then get them to actually follow through, right? It's the very first thing is clarity. Right? The very first thing is clarity. You have to be clear on what it is you want. A lot of people, like I said, are so focused on what they don't want, right? But the thing with the brain is we've got this device, another part of our brain called the reticular activating system, right? Or the RAS, RAS for short, that filters through information, right? It filters through information. So according to neuroscience, and I don't know how accurate these numbers are, is that everything we perceive in our reality, right, with our five senses, is less than 1% of what's actually going on around us. right? So that's quite a incredible number if you think about it. Now, how the reticular activating system, this RAS, filters through information is through deleting, distorting, and generalizing information according to our belief systems, right? So if you stimulate that particular activating system, and I'm going to give you an example here. So you might see a vehicle, a car ad for a new Porsche or whatever the case may be, right? And then the next day and the next week, all of a sudden you see these Porsches all over on the road, in the parking lot, where you've never noticed them before. So it's not that they were never there, right? It's just that your reticular activating system got excited by this idea, it got aroused, and now it started to allow more information through relating to what you are excited about. So this is why it's important for people to get clear on their desired outcomes, on their vision, on their goals, right? And get excited about that, because then the reticular activating system is going to allow through more information that supports those visions, those goals, and those desired outcomes. So the first, like I said, principle is clarity. And then the second one, I teach every single one, and it's a prerequisite for going on any program with me. It's responsibility. You have to be willing to take complete responsibility for the results that you have achieved in your life, for everything that you're experiencing now. You have to be able and willing to take responsibility, because only when you take responsibility for where you are can you actually create something different, right? So taking responsibility completely is taking your power back. It's saying, I did this, I got to where I am now. No one else, it's no one else's fault, right? Only when you take that sort of radical responsibility can you actually change and create whatever it is you want.
I mean, that's a big step. I mean, I refer to it also responsibility, accountability, and I'll speak about accountability a lot, especially in the workplace as well, and especially in where we are with, we're trying a swarm model, distributed decision making, and all that sort of thing. Is we have to give these people, or you have to give people accountability, and people have to be accountable to each other in order to move forward. It's not a blame game, and it's not a you as you say, you take, and I do love at the beginning of your program where you make it's a written statement that you make people write out. And again, I go through I actually was going through a lot of your notes, or my notes, and your program that we initially started with last night. Taking that responsibility is that, as I say, it's the first or second thing you make someone actually look at and do. The third thing you do, which I suppose you're getting to, is having a bit of fun and being creative and laughing. And laughing I use because it's one of my it's one of the things I've taken out of your program, and I write it every day. I want to laugh a lot, and my daughter once told me that a lot is 50 times. So I need to laugh 50 times a day in order to achieve what I've set out there, and having fun with it. Why is having fun so important?
Well, Grant, it's once again, when it comes to mental health, when you look at people who struggle with things like anxiety, stress, depression, and all of these things, they're not having fun. They are simply not having fun. And it's all a choice, right? Even though when you're in that state, and I've been there, I was depressed, I was clinically depressed, I almost committed suicide, I was in the hospital. So it's not like I'm speaking of something that I don't understand and I don't know. I was on the medications, like I said, it was severe clinical depression. But I realized, first of all, I took responsibility. I was blaming the world, I was blaming my parents, my work, the economy, or the list goes on. I wasn't taking responsibility for where I was at, because that was just too difficult. It was a bitter pill to swallow. But the moment I swallowed that bitter pill and I said, okay, cool, I did this, I'm going to do something different, right? And I realized, when it comes to controlling your emotional state, there are a lot of, fancy tools and techniques, but nothing is as powerful as having fun. Nothing is as powerful for your emotional and mental state than actually having fun, right? I mean, if you're dancing, if you're laughing, if you're moving your body and you're breathing deeply and you're engaging with other human beings and your vibration is so high, you know, we've got this, the scale of consciousness, right? Or, you know, let's just call it the emotional tone scale, right? If you're feeling feelings of anger or guilt or shame, you know, there is a contraction that happens in your body, right? It's obvious, you know, you can just imagine when you feel angry, your face contracts, your solar plexus contracts. And what happens when a system is contracted? It blocks the flow of energy, right? When the system is expanded, when you're laughing, when you're joyful, when you're having fun, the system is expanded. And when the system is expanded, it creates a massive flow of energy. So you actually become more intelligent. You can process more information the more fun you're having. It's actually proven through studies that when you study or you learn through play, you learn at least 400 times faster, or 400% faster at least. So that's a great element, and it's a powerful element of transformation, is choosing to have fun. You can see all of these things, you know, life, work, you can see it as a game. It doesn't take the efficiency out of it. It just actually allows you to process more information.
100%. And I think also, like, I was giving it a bit of a thought this morning when I was going through my tools and working through the different areas that I work and my disciplines that I work on. If you didn't add fun in there, oh my gosh, I don't know how long I could go on for, because like, and again, we've said it before, like this process is not easy. Like it's hard work. And also you've got to really, when you play, and I think you said it to me, is when you start opening up and working on yourself, you open yourself up for everything. So if you're not having fun doing it, then you probably shouldn't be, I don't want to say you shouldn't be doing it, but have fun while you're trying to do it. And your last principle?
So there's actually two more, like, so fun is great. Fun is very important. Like, that's why I put it high up on the scale. And the other one is commitment, right? A commitment to completion. And this is like basically what I see as the formula for excellence, right? Because if you commit to completion, right, then there's no chance of failure, right? Because if you commit to reach a certain outcome, and there's 3 magic words, and you know these words, Grant, it's no matter what, right? It's not I'm going to live an extraordinary life if I get the new job position, or I'm not going to live an extraordinary life when I get into a certain relationship. I'm not going to live an extraordinary life if I win the lottery. It's I'm going to live an extraordinary life no matter what. So that commitment, that's the type of commitment that I look for, and that basically guarantees success. Because if you commit no matter what, then you reduce and you bring your chances of failure down to 0. So it's that commitment that seals the deal, so to speak.
So, I mean, it's like anything, and goal setting obviously comes into it. And I mean, again, from your personal state all the way through to your business state, in your business mindset and things like that, people should be setting their goals and working through their goals. I mean, it's hugely important. A lot of people these days sort of get, well, you know, I feel that there's a negative connotation when it comes to goals, because people, first of all, they set goals obviously on New Year's Eve. Oh, I'm going to give smoking this year. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get fit. You know, those are the normal ones. And then by sort of January the 3rd, you know, you're back in the pub, smoking, drinking, and not worrying about it. And we kind of let ourselves off the hook too easily. Now, I mean, and again, going back to training for a fight, for example, where we've been and we've worked, and it's a big fight, it's that 8-week prep and things like that commitment where it's a signed sort of, and it's actually what I used to love about the fight game, is that you used to sign your fight contract, you knew you were going, that's what weight you had to be in, that's what was going to happen, win, lose, you knew the scenarios, you could commit to the process and you could go through it and do it. A lot of people give themselves slack. They're like, it's okay, you know, if you fail, failing is good, There's
Yeah.
certain areas where I do believe, as long as you're learning from your failing. But when it comes to, and I've changed the word goal because I'm going with a long-term play to outcomes. And I use a lot of outcomes. I'm looking for this outcome in my life. But one thing I have learned as well is, and you mentioned it now, is it starts today. It's not when I win this or when I do that, I'm going to be great. It has to be the journey. Like it has to be the life. Your life has to become the process.
Yeah. Grant, it's incredible. Like, especially in the personal development, there's this idea that you're going to do this course, right? You're going to do this program with Tony Robbins, and then your future is going to be better. Right? And this is one of the most damaging beliefs, right? And it keeps people on this hamster wheel of just not being happy. Because the moment you embark on a journey to think that the future is going to be better, what are the silent instructions that you're giving your subconscious mind? It's that now is not good enough, right? So if you plant a seed of now is not good enough, what do you think is going to grow from that in the future? You can't plant lack, seeds of now is not good enough and expect then abundance and joy to grow from that, right? So the key is you must fall totally in love. And we call it moment, right? Where you have to accept yourself, your life as it is. You have to start becoming grateful for your life now, right? Not when I'm in the relationship, not when I've got all the money or the new position or the car or whatever it is, right? You got to practice active appreciation for your life in this. Then you're sowing seeds of gratitude and abundance, and then more of that will grow. It's actually such a simple concept, but people seem to miss that mark, miss that point. It's just getting present and appreciating what you have and what you are, and then choosing to create more from that state, not from a state of the future is going to be better, right? Because that perpetuates it.
And that's what you make us do. I mean, or make people do, is that you one of your evening rituals is that you get and it was really difficult in the beginning, and I challenge people to try it. And I have challenged people to try it, and I know for a fact that it makes a difference because I've received messages on it. And that's write 3 things that you're grateful down on a piece of paper for the day. 3 things. And in the beginning, I mean, I remember doing it, and I was like, trying to figure out, like, really, should I be grateful for something so small? Now, if I look at what I've done this morning, I've got a page because you become grateful for everything in actual fact. And I mean, it is starting off that step where you put yourself in that place where you appreciate your current state, no matter how bad it is, and you appreciate your current state because you're trying to improve it. So you've got to first acknowledge where you are. Where are you? And again, I go, where's your destination that you want to go? What sort of outcome you want to go? And you can have a long one or you can have a short one, but you've got to figure out where you are, because you can't start unless you know where you are. It's like anything. If you're running a race, you got to know where you got to figure out where you are to get to the finish line. And understanding where you are, these tools help. So, I challenge people, write it down, just 3 things. And build from there, because that's actually the start of being present in your current day on acknowledging that sort of happiness. Again, it comes back to happiness for me. If you can point these things out, it does grow once you, I suppose, like practice.
Absolutely, Grant, and it's about perspective as well. You see people and they've got it's perceived that they have everything, right? They have everything. They've got good job, beautiful family, yet these people are unhappy, and then you ask them, like, why are you not grateful? What is there to be grateful for? And then it's all about perspective. Like, you look at people, someone, for instance, like I actually had this conversation with a client 2 weeks ago, and he's now also training to help others. He's training to become a coach or a facilitator in the personal development side of things. And he said, but I have friends that they're depressed. They don't have anything to be grateful for. And I said, no, that's just a perceptual shift. Don't have shoes, right? Or I'm going to use a very radical example now. If you don't have shoes and you're not grateful because you don't even have shoes, look at someone who doesn't have feet, right? You know, so if you have feet, you've got something to be grateful for. So it's a radical example, but it's just a perceptual shift, and it's all about your perception. If you start looking, you'll find. Like you said, you know, in the beginning, it was difficult, you know, finding maybe 3 things to be grateful for. But now you've got a page, right? Because you're training your mind. You're activating that reticular activating system to look for things to appreciate. And it's active appreciation, and it's like a muscle, right? That's why these things, you know, we in the beginning, we come back to unconscious incompetence. I don't know that I'm not a grateful person. Right. And then someone shows me like I'm actually ungrateful shit, you know, and then I'm now consciously incompetent. And then I start practicing active appreciation. So in the beginning, it's difficult. So I have to look for things and I have to like say, okay, cool, I can be grateful for that. And then that muscle gets stronger. And then eventually we're just grateful human beings and we actually live in joy. It's not rocket science. It's incredible.
It's actually amazing. It really is. And we're going to leave it there because I think we've given some really good food for thought here. And we've given some skills across for people that actually, if they want to try, you know, and again, my intention is to make an impact on at least one person's life, you know, every day. And I think today, you know, we've given them a start. So, you know, take accountability for where you are. Be responsible for you and try that. If you are battling and you're really in a space where you feel stuck and uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. You asked some beautiful questions, and I think we extracted a lot of value from this chat. So thank you. It also, having these chats, it reminds me of these things, and it's so much fun chatting with you about it.
Awesome, Charlie. I appreciate it. We're going to take some comments in lately. I've had quite a bit of feedback, and I'm going to start getting some questions back in for next week. So look forward to next week's session. And thanks again for your time.